So, good morning, everyone. We're opening up the monastery little bit by little bit. So we have a new person here, so I want to introduce what we're doing. We're going to chant the Reflections on Universal Well-Being. And this chant is, an expression of the four boundless hearts of loving kindness, a wish for other people's happiness, compassion, they're free of suffering, appreciative joy, that they, you could say, reap the benefits of their goodness. And finally, equanimity, a reflection on how we're all the owners of our karma. The decisions in our lives decide how our life plays out. So this is the Reflections on Universal Well-Being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. So good morning. I'll continue to share Master Hua's talk on the three refuges, because quite recently we've had a refuge ceremony here at the monastery. Okay. We had a refuge ceremony at the monastery, and so I thought it'd be really nice to just go over really what does it mean to take refuge. So Master Hua shared in the beginning how after you take refuge, you're beginning a new life, and you're relearning how to eat, how to sleep, how to wear clothes. Right? Most of the time in our lives, we just develop habits around comfort. Maybe we observed our parents. However we develop our habits. But once we, take refuge and have the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as our standard, then we learn that actually we eat the food that's necessary to sustain our lives, have real contentment and gratitude in our hearts. For clothing, we wear, something modest and simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. And because Master Hua made the point, wearing really fancy, expensive clothes, it's almost like being in jail, because we're so scared of getting our clothes dirty that we can't really freely move about. And then sleeping is sleeping enough. Not too much, not too little. What happens in our society, I think sometimes, is actually we sleep too little because we have a very strong narrative of productivity here in the West. So it's work, and sleep is almost seen as an enemy. And so we overwork ourselves, and the body really suffers. Or we overstimulate ourselves with technology, and so our sleep is also not truly peaceful. There's the other extreme, of course, is when we sleep too much, and we just kind of lounge around and don't really engage life because we're trying to avoid it through sleeping. So those are the two extremes. he then talks about how when we take refuge, we really need to have faith, vows, and practice. But I won't go into that today because that'll be the whole time. I want to continue reading what he says about taking refuge and the Dharma. So there was a person who was, you could say, a little bit arrogant, who kind of challenged the master, saying, if everything is empty, why do we need to cultivate? Right, last time we talked about this. And Master Hua's reply back to him, kind of looking directly in the eye, was, okay, if you're really empty, then why do you need to ask me? Kind of popping his balloon. And he continues on in the talk. It is just because you aren't empty that you have to ask. If you are truly enlightened, you would not feel that you were more intelligent than any other living being. You should be just the same as other living beings. I think that's actually a really interesting marker for our cultivation, is that as we're meditating, as we're practicing, as we're trying to live a life of virtue, if we begin to think of ourselves as more virtuous than other people, more spiritual than other people, more intelligent than other people, we're actually going the wrong direction. In this practice, what we find is that we're able to more deeply empathize and connect with living beings, to truly care for them, right? And so the Master Hua continues on. The Buddha said, all living beings have the Buddha nature. All can become Buddhas. Therefore, the Buddhism I teach is not Indian Buddhism, is not Chinese Buddhism, Thai or Burmese or Sri Lankan Buddhism, is not Japanese, Korean, or Vietnamese. Buddhism is not the private property of any single country. Not one nationality has monopoly on Buddhism. It is transnational. It pervades to the ends of empty space and the limits of the Dharma realm. Buddhism cannot be restricted to boundaries of nationalities or to discriminations between us and them. You cannot define it to a single race. Buddhism includes everything. It extends to the furthest limits of the universe. Actually, that's why this organization is called Dharma Realm Buddhist Association, is because Master Hua, in his vision of the Dharma, you could say bringing Buddhism here to the West, was that it was not kind of limited by any cultural form. It's not a kind of Chinese Dharma. We have all our rituals in the monastery. It's even not American Dharma, trying to adapt to the West. It's going to the Buddha nature, our mind ground. And whether you believe in the Buddha or not, I count you as a disciple of the Buddha. Again, this is given as a taking refuge talk. So he's talking to those who've just made a commitment to the Buddhist path. If you believe in the Buddha, you are a Buddhist disciple. If you don't believe in the Buddha, you're still counted as a Buddhist disciple. Whether you believe or not is merely a question of time. Because in the future, you're bound to believe. If you don't believe in this life, you will in the next. If you don't believe right now, you eventually will come to believe. You can't guarantee that you won't change. Take a look at your own life. Today, you might like to eat sweet things. Tomorrow, you may prefer sour things. The day after, you may prefer spicy things. The next day, you may prefer something salty. When you have tried all those flavors, you may want to try something bitter. Who told you to change your preferences for taste? You did it on your own. Believing in the Buddha is the same way. Gradually, you'll come to believe in the Buddha, regardless if maybe you're Catholic, Protestant, or Jewish. Whether you belong to a religion of the heavens, of the earth, or of human beings, everything is included within Buddhism. You can't escape. Why not? Because you cannot run outside the Dharma realm. I'll pause there. I think Master Hua is not trying to say this in a sense of wanting to say, I need to convert everyone to Buddhism, because even Buddhism is a label. At one point he said how he wanted to change the name of Buddhism to saying it's the religion of living beings, the religion of great wisdom. And so we're all living beings. We all have this potential to be free and wise. So this is the path to do so. Buddhism extends to the ends of space in the Dharma realm. Where can you run to? Can you run outside of the Dharma realm? That's the universe. So can you run outside the universe? Where could you possibly get such spiritual powers? The Buddha told us all living beings have the Buddha nature. All can become Buddhas. He never said, no living being has the Buddha nature. None can become Buddhas. Only I, Shakyamuni Buddha, can become a Buddha. I am the one and only. I have the monopoly. He never said that. Therefore, he said any living being who cultivates can become a Buddha. You and I and they and even all the mosquitoes, ants, and bees are all living beings and all have the potential to become Buddhas. Unless you say, I don't want to become a Buddha, I am not a living being, you will become a Buddha. Whether you're a priest or a minister, you're still a living being. You can't say, I am not a living being, I'm a God. Even he who claims to be a one and only God is a living being. How can you escape? How can you escape? So maybe I just share a few reflections on that teaching by Master Hua on the three refuges, which is this vision that all of us have this potential to wake up. And I find this to be one of the most profound teachings in the Dharma. It's easy for us to get caught up in a narrative where, I'm better than other people, or maybe the opposite, I'm inferior to other people, or that person is bad, or that person is good, or that person I like, that person I don't like, or I share a culture with that person, I don't share a culture with that person. This goes along with my preferences, this doesn't go along with my preferences. I think we just observe our mind as we go through the day. How much of it is just thinking about likes and dislikes, rights and wrongs. And the Buddha taught us that actually it's just that constantly discriminating mind that's causing us to lose track of our truly awakened potential. And our awakened potential actually sees what? It sees that all of us have this potential for Buddhahood. So I find it to be a very profound practice, is actually when we look at each other, rather than looking and seeing their, such and such a person, male, female, attractive, not attractive, virtuous, not virtuous. What we look at is to see, can I see the Buddha nature in that person? Can I see their full potential? And I think the second question is, how can I support that full potential? And my sense is if we have that attitude towards those around us, moment to moment, we also begin to have that attitude towards ourselves, moment to moment. Rather than judging ourselves as good or bad, right or wrong, we begin to see ourselves as a future Buddha. And then how do we support ourselves on that journey? Okay, so maybe that's something people can reflect on for the day. Maybe seeing everyone as a Buddha and seeing ourselves as a future Buddha as well. And it's a good time because the Buddha's birthday is coming up on May 8th, Vesak, the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing into nirvana. So, really good time to think, who is the Buddha to me, and how would I support myself to realize Buddhahood? Okay, so I think maybe that much for this morning. We'll do a short 3 steps, 1 bow, because I have class this morning with DRBU, So we'll probably finish around 7.